All right, February 24th, 5:15, I call this meeting to order. First order of business, review and discussion on the proposed compensation packet and health insurance plans. Walden and Mr. Munoz.
Governing board members, we are excited. We've been counting down the days to present this to you. This has been a labor of love since November. We started this project. Okay. So we have a thrilling engagement here for you. Take this down, pass it down. Now, don't be intimidated by this. I know it looks like 150 slides. I promise you it's under 50. Okay?
49.
49. But we really wanted to make sure that you had all of the information in an easy way to view and read. Sometimes there's issues with the screen, so we wanted to make sure you had a copy of that to follow along. JD Walden and myself have been working on this, working with our compensation committee, which we'll get to in a little bit, but we're going to turn it over to our agenda.
Okay, so today we have some items we'll be going over with you. One is compensation committee, the next would be salary recommendations, then insurance. We had a survey, funding, and then our timeline.
Perfect. So we can't continue without first highlighting our compensation committee. We've been working with our compensation committee since 2018. So I want you just to take a moment to review the names on here, more importantly, review the employee groups that they're associated with, and just see what stands out to you.
Diversity.
Yes. There are different perspectives at the table. We have hourly employees, we have support staff employees, we have certified employees, we have administrators. We have 12 employees that are representing the entirety of our district. And so you have those different lenses that they're bringing to the conversation. They're having history, you have some new members, you have some members that have been here since 2018. We've had at least 4 members that have been here since the beginning, so they have the history of the process. They're very instrumental in navigating the different challenges that we've gone through when it comes to compensation benefits and navigating the celebrations that we had to announce as well. But just having them as thought partners is just crucial. So we want to show you just a little clip of our last meeting, just so you kind of see the feel and how much conversation is happening. So we were not having the boardroom because it was going through some remodeling. So just to show you a little clip here. So we will have conversation with them, asking questions like, for example, what have you been hearing about in health insurance with your employee groups at your school? How do you feel about the compensation that has occurred over the last couple of years? Just those pivoting questions that we want to ask them. So just, I want you to see how we strategically partner them. It's a short clip, but what stands out to you?
Everybody's talking amongst themselves.
Yes, I also want to highlight that we're very strategic in who we partner. So for example, here you have a teacher who's been here from the beginning with the committee. Then here you have a paralibrarian who's bringing that perspective to the conversation. So those are the elbow buddies that we call them, right? Mm-hmm. Then you have someone here from transportation talking to our library coordinator. So again, different perspectives are shared, different angles. We have someone from our maintenance department with one of our teachers on special assignment. We have a teacher and a principal, and then over here you have some more categories here. So we're very strategic in saying we want to have different perspectives at the table when we bring our recommendations and we're asking for feedback. So we just wanted to highlight that very quickly. Go back here. All right, so a little bit about our mission. So when we first established the committee in 2018, we wanted to make sure it was very clear that the committee didn't report directly to the governing board. The committee was there to provide feedback regarding compensation and benefits. And so Mr. Ponder and I were the pioneers of that committee. And so it's been very successful ever since, but it's really important that they know what their role is in that committee as well, that they don't report directly to the board, they report to administration, and we share the findings with the board as well. Okay. So this is a part of the presentation that when we share it with the compensation committee, they do a little drum roll because they want to see exactly what the salary increase is going to be for the next year, right? So I want to start off first with our exempt employees. These are all of the employees that are not hourly, okay? So So on your slide there, you have a list of all the employees. We have teachers included in this. We have our non-teachers. You can see that broken down. Instructional coaches, counselors, advocates. Then we have our administrators, and then we have our other exempt employees, our nurses, our therapists, psychologists, supervisors, and our other exempt staff. So again, an easy way of kind of categorizing this, these are all employees that are not hourly. They're not clocking in, they're not clocking out. So what we do is we go back and say, okay, what is the cost of living increase that we see throughout the year? And so it's been teetering between 2.7, 2.8. We've been monitoring that. And so we wanted to just go just slightly above that as we look at next year's compensation increase for that employee group. I'll give you a moment just to kind of review that. And then we're going to jump into, in addition to this 3% increase for teachers, we're looking at giving them something additional beyond their base pay.
Yes, so this is classroom site fund. So this is out of a different pot of money than M&O. And if you see on your paper there that we've had increases, pretty good increases since 23-24. Well, what we're looking at doing is giving another $1,000 increase to the teachers like we did last year. So this would go to their base pay. And then over the last, if we were able to do the 1,000 next year, that'll be $7,000 since 2023.
So just take a moment to see how rapid that increase has been and how substantial that is when we're talking about teacher recruitment, we're talking about teacher retention, because again, these funds are in addition to their base pay as a teacher. So they're going to get 3% added to their base. In addition to that, they're going to get their total, if this is approved by the board, $16,200 in addition to their base pay. What's unique, again, if you look at the base classroom site fund, we always try to add it into that bucket of funds because that is paid out in conjunction with their base pay. So every 2 weeks, they see that increase. They don't have to wait till the end of the school year to see if they meet the metrics for performance pay. They're seeing that increase in conjunction with their base salary. All right, so let's kind of look back at the last 10 years. It was opening up the history books for us. So we went back to look at this. This is pretty small, but you can see in 2016 what kind of raises were given. So I also have another handout that might be a little bit better visually to see. I think you have some in your hand, right? So if you want to take one of these and pass it down.
You got my answer, let's pull my copy.
I think this might be a little easier to see visually. So you have the school years in the center. I'll wait till everybody gets a copy. You have the school year in the center. We went back 10 years. Let's go back in time to 2016. On the right-hand side, you're going to see the teacher raise that was given that year, school year. On the left-hand side, you're going to see all the other exempt employees, right? We just want to kind of see the differences between the two raises. And you can see whenever you see a green box, that's because that school year, there was a priority to have more of an increase for teachers than the other exempt employees. So for example, let's look at 2017, 2018. All of our teachers had a tiered increase. So what that means is if you were working between 1 and 3 years in our district, then you would get a 1% increase. If you were working between 4 and 9 years in our district, then you would get a 2% increase. If you had 10 or more years, then you were going to get a 3% increase. That's how a tiered increase worked. Now we did that because there were so many years prior to me being here that were frozen years where teachers were working in our district, didn't have an increase. Yet what we were finding when we came on board is there were still increases passed to the placement schedule. So you have a new teacher coming in, being hired, giving years of experience, yet the teacher that was on staff was frozen and they were not moving at the same pace. So what we inherited was you have new teachers making more than existing teachers, right? And that disparity started growing. So that's why we started implementing tiered increases. I didn't include all of that we did prior to those 10 years, but prior to that we had restoration years for teachers where we went and we gave them back those years that they should have been given during those frozen years. So we did all of that work, but I didn't want to go beyond 10 years with the history books. That graph would have been very long.
The numbers get smaller? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and I'm trying to do this without my glasses. So far I'm getting, we'll see how long that lasts. But I just wanted to show over the last 10 years that we did see that there was a focus, there was an intentionality to make sure that teacher pay was a priority, right? And that's what you can see on several years that the blue graph is much higher than the exempt employees. So let's look at that cumulatively. So the next slide shows you from 2016 all the way to 2025, 26, you can see what that entire raise looks like. So, and you can see it all on the page here too, right, what it adds up to. So at the bottom, you have the 54.5% increase. And that's using obviously the highest of the tiers. So if you were a 10-year teacher, then you're 3% plus 3% plus 11% plus 6, 5, 3.5, all the way down. That equals to the 54.5.
You don't happen to have the cost of living for those 10 years?
Yeah, we can go back and look at that. Yeah,
I was just curious to see where it landed.
right. We just wanted to show globally what that looked like over the last 10 years. One other thing I want to mention, if you look at those last two numbers, one on the left and one on the right, what do you think that represents? I'll give you the answer. I'll give you the answer. So if you look up here at your screen, we're going to start on this side right here. This number represents in 2016, if you were a brand new teacher, 0 years of experience with a bachelor's degree, you started off at $31,098. That was your annual salary. Plus you had your classroom site fund, right? This is the $5,900. So as a brand new teacher in 2016, you were at $36,000 and change. Let's fast forward 10 years from now. What does that look like? You're a brand new teacher with a bachelor's degree. You just graduated, no years of experience, and look at that increase of classroom site fund and the starting salary. That's why you see in our billboards and our advertisements, we have that saying, first year teachers, you can make up to $60,000. So when we talk about recruitment and retention, we just had a recruitment fair yesterday and we had 90 people come and participate. That's the most we've ever had in our district. And I was sharing with Mr. Ponder that we had people, I won't say the different districts because we're on record, but we had neighboring districts, certified teachers, math, science, special ed, experienced teachers, or coming to look for opportunities to join our district.
So this was open to the public?
It was open to the public, absolutely, yes. We had new graduates that were just going to graduate, they're going to graduate in May, and they're looking at us as their first choice when it comes to teaching positions in our district. So the work that we've been putting in to make sure that our salary is competitive, our benefits are competitive, that is starting to show the return on investment as well. So I just wanted to paint that picture. And I don't want to just paint it with my words, I want to show you a clip.
Oh, yes.
So you can see and this was just a snapshot. We had it from 3 to 6 p.m., but you can see the lines here, conversations happening with our principals. Let me close this and show you one more. We had so many people interested in middle school, which was a first, that we had to call Mr. Buckley and say, we need you to transfer from elementary booth to the middle school. And he was a good sport. He helped us. But you can see here the line of individuals waiting to talk to people from middle school, right?
Oh,
yeah. This is our substitute booth. And we had a booth for paraprofessional positions too, but close to 90 people. It was truly a success, and it was great to see so much interest in our district. So just wanted to share that with the board as well. All right, let's go back to our slideshow here. All right, we're going to continue now and talk about our hourly employees and what recommendations we have for that group.
Okay, so we have two different groups of hourly employees. One group that is above minimum wage and one group that is at minimum wage. So we're going to talk about the above minimum wage group first. And so what we're looking to do here, hopefully, is for our hourly employees, we would really want to show the staff how much we value their loyalty. We would like to be able to give a tiered increase. So if you've been here 0 to 3 years, you'd get 50 cents, 4 to 9 years, 75 cents, 10 plus years would be $1. I think that staff would really make them feel valued. That, you know, you've been here longer, you're getting a larger increase than just your counterpoint that maybe has been here, 3 years and I've been here 10. So I think that's a great incentive to stay.
And I think it's really important to know that minimum wage, when it was implemented 2016 to now, we want to show how dramatic that increase has been, and that we've had to keep pace with minimum wage positions, with all the positions on top of minimum wage, right? Mm-hmm. So try and keep pace with that. Remember that minimum wage is unfunded mandate. So we don't get any additional funds. Within the resources that we have to make sure we meet the increase of minimum wage and make sure we have enough to have increases for everyone else that needs to have that raise as well. So we wanted to show that picture for you. So again, that's a little small, so we have a printout here for you.
What is minimum wage right now?
$15.15. It just increased in January. So sir, if you want to take one of those and pass it down. So this is just employees at minimum wage. So you can see at 2016, January 1st of 2016, I'll wait till everybody gets a copy. 805. So our employees were 805, 2016. And then you can see the next year it jumped from 805 to $10. And again, this is your minimum wage group. So we had to make sure, okay, everyone else above minimum wage, we have to keep pace as well. And then you can see, I'm not gonna go through each year, but you can see at the end where we are just currently recently at 15.15. If you look at that percentage, that's an 88.2% increase in the last 10 years. Just important to really stress that this is an unfunded mandate, right? So we don't get additional funds for this. And this is also part of the reason why we're trying to, every year we're trying to see how can we best serve all of the different employee groups. And so there are times when we have to make difficult decisions. Okay, we have to do this for minimum wage. How do we keep people at pace with that? And then how do we still have teacher pay as a priority in all these conversations? So again, it's been instrumental. It's been vital to have a compensation committee be a part of those conversations to help us navigate those challenges. But we just wanted to show you visually what that looks like.
Okay, so this group is the minimum wage group. And so we'd like to do something different than we haven't done before. We'd like to give them a tiered increase. And although you just saw that huge increase they've gotten over the 10 years, currently, if you're an employee working here on minimum wage and you're working here 15 years, you make the exact same pay as someone new. And that's not really fair. I mean, it's hard because we've had to follow that drastic increase year after year. But what we think we should do, what would be the right thing to do is to give a tiered increase to these groups as well. And if you notice how many different employees are listed under each group. So if you've been here 10 years, you'd get a $1 increase. So you wouldn't be sitting the same as a brand new employee. Again, we'd show that we value you, your loyalty to our district and with that increase. And I think they would be very happy with that.
It's excellent because you have, for example, our lead custodians. They don't make any more money, and they're lead custodians, and then a new one gets hired, is paid the same.
Correct.
So it's just, this is excellent.
Yes.
Correct. We definitely took the feedback last year from the governing board saying they wanted to see more of an intentionality in creating those separations with even this group. And so that's why we brought this forward as well.
So notice that we put 50 cents for the 0 to 3 year. They would not get that increase until January because we would be waiting on a report from the state to know what the minimum wage would have to be. So it may or may not be 50 cents because we don't know. We won't know till August, September. So that group, that new group, 0 to 3 years, would stay at the same raise time that they have had over the years, waiting until January. But anyone that's 4 to 9 years would get their raise July, 75 cents, 10 years or more, $1 in July.
So essentially what we're doing is so right now we have two groups. We have those that are at minimum wage and those that are above minimum wage. We're essentially saying these employees, the 69 and the 38, we're going to move from this group. We're taking them out of this minimum wage group and now moving them into those that are above the minimum wage. So they're no longer going to get their raises in January. They're going to get them in July like everyone else.
Starting in 27. Right, so they get the 50 cents in January and they go on the July schedule.
So those that are currently scheduled to have a 50-cent increase projected, they would still get their 50 cent in January. But the other two groups, they would switch from January to now they would have a July increase because they're switching from a minimum wage group to a non-minimum wage group.
So they would not get a January increase. They'd be waiting until July.
They would get it 6 months early.
Yes.
So they would get it this July instead of
this
waiting
July,
until
yes.
January.
Okay,
Yeah.
I heard them say 27. I was like, wait a minute.
No, it would go into effect this July.
It would be
Okay.
those dates right there, July 26th, and then that first group has to wait until whatever the actual increase is gonna be for minimum wage.
Yeah, everyone on
January.
minimum wage did just get that 50-cent increase, so they went to 15.15.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, so anybody that's 4 to 9 years or 4 years or more would get their increase in July like everybody else, and then the rest of the minimum wage group with the lower years of service would just stay on their same cycle, January.
Even though they're not the minimum wage group anymore, because if you give them a 50-cent increase, that's gonna keep them above minimum wage.
We won't know. We're projecting the 50 cents. It may or may not be 50 cents. So it's based on whatever the state determines minimum wage will be. And that's why we wrote projecting, because we don't know. It all depends on what that inflation increase will be. So we really won't know the 0 to 3 years until we have that data.
Right, but once that comes out, it's 15.50, let's say it goes to 15.60, are they still getting 5 cents? Or are they getting,
No.
they're just gonna get a minimum wage
Correct.
increase? So
Correct.
the 50 cents and 27 doesn't,
Yeah, so we put projected because we weren't sure what, we're projecting conservatively, that's gonna go 50 cents, but it could be 35, it
all
could
right,
be
so
40.
we're not driving it as
Correct.
you wanna increase your pay, we're driving it as the state's pushing your pay up.
Yes.
So we're,
Yes. For this.
the
group.
0 to 3 years, we're not opting to give them a pay increase, only the 4 to 10 plus.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
I got
Yeah.
that, sorry. I don't know why I
No,
couldn't.
that's a good
it
question,
wasn't
because we can clarify
comprehensive.
that as well,
Estimated or
yes.
something like that.
Well, not even estimating, I was just envisioning that you're giving the minimum wage a 50-cent pay increase, so they'll be 50 cents above minimum wage.
Oh,
But you're not,
No.
you're just anticipating what minimum wage is gonna be, and that's what
Right.
they're gonna get.
Yeah.
If it's $1, then they get $1.
right.
I think that's a great point. I think because we're going to use this, if it's approved by the board, we're going to use this slide to educate our employees on this. What we could do is change the wording here and not put 50 cents, just put minimum wage increase.
Mhm.
This
Yes,
way
that
it's-
would be
Yes.
better.
Yeah.
Anticipated
Yes.
minimum wage,
Yes.
because in my mind, whatever minimum wage is next year was gonna be 50 cents more, which then takes them out of minimum wage
Right.
Mhm.
classification.
Yeah, we can make that correction. I think that'd be easier for people to understand. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
good call.
Well, it's just a simple mind.
That's good. Good call. All right.
I look at it like I'm making minimum wage, I'm gonna get 50 cents above minimum wage.
Yeah.
And I'll be disappointed
And then
come
we'll be
first
fielding those phone
paycheck.
calls. We will both be fielding those phone calls.
First paycheck, I won't be happy.
All right, so we want to stop there. What are your thoughts? This is the recommendation we have when it comes to salary increases for all employee groups. We want to stop there because we have 3 sections that we're going to cover with you. So this is the first section when it comes to just salary increases. Again, we ran this by the compensation committee. We have multiple employee groups. They were very happy that they feel like every employee group would have something substantial going into next year, especially the fact that we're able to pass on the tiered increase to the minimum wage group. That was a huge, I would say, selling point for that committee as well. Yeah,
Everybody on this page here, the 3% salary increase, these are all considered exempt, correct? Okay,
yes,
and these are all the non-exempt,
correct.
these 3.
Hourly, yeah.
What is the base pay for the teachers right now? Is that the 60?
Yeah, if you combine, so if you look at the 44,000, that's the base pay for teachers. Let me go back to that slide. Right here. So this is the base pay for a brand new teacher with a bachelor's degree, no experience, and then in addition to their base pay, they're eligible for the classroom site fund as well.
And what do they got to do for that site fund?
Well, for 12,000 of it, they don't have to do anything for that. Then for 3,200, they have to go through the 301 plan or the classroom site fund plan.
So what'd you say, 12,000?
And if they approve it, it'll be 12 plus 3, 15,000? Did you say we're going to 16
So
too?
it's
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's approved, it'd be 13.
Yeah.
So
it'll be 13 if approved.
3,200 is contingent on them meeting indicators within our classroom site fund plan. And there's a variety of factors, right, Mr. Shepherd, on that one? Okay.
Is there a 12,000 goes straight to their
Yes,
base
yeah.
Yes.
Is there a district philosophy behind this? But behind the salary increases, or what drives this? And then what challenges do you have that you feel, like I heard valuing across the board, all employees was one of them. So are there any challenges that we need to know about with regard to recruitment and retention?
I think the challenges are coming up. We're going to talk about special ed.
Okay.
And some reclassification requests that we received from our new director, and we feel like they're valid, so we want to bring them to the table. I would say that's number one. Teacher recruitment is always number one in our mind as well. And so I think we've been very intentional in having some baby steps that have led to some progress.
Do you have retention data?
We do
For
have some,
employees
yes. I don't have
across
it
the
today,
board?
but yes, we
Okay,
do, yes.
Because I can see too where the increase, the tiered that you have here for the
Mhm.
above, like you're valuing.
Right.
Mhm.
So your retention of your 4 to 10 year plus
Mhm.
is something you're trying to resolve or you want to
Correct.
keep in place looking at data.
And historically, I think for 2 years, if not 3, we had a specific intention on increasing bus driver pay because we had a shortage that was affecting not only us, but
Oh,
the high school
okay.
district. You might have some experience with that. And so
I drove a bus.
we did have some intentionality on those. So as we recognize that positions are hard to fill or hard to keep people, then those
Keep
will
the
get
attention to.
focused
Yes.
Okay.
on when it comes time for compensation conversations.
And our value to retain teachers, we are in the process of restructuring our coaches so that we can provide more coaching time to our different classifications of our teachers.
And we hope that the behavior support program will do the same, that will make the teachers experience something that's more enriching for them and we can provide support in other ways.
What was the thought process for the revenue change and pay raises? So what was our anticipating how much the district's going to receive total in funds compared to pay raises? Because I look at it from a different perspective. Your administration, I'm looking at it, if my income is not at least what I'm willing to pay my employees, then I'm digging a hole.
Sure.
So
So
that's
we have
an
a slide at
important-
the end to show you how we're going to fund this plan. Should we just,
Well, I'm just curious because
Yeah.
if the state decide, what's the district's thought process on it? Because if the state comes down and says, we're going to increase district across the board 10%, are we taking 7% of that and going directly to the employees underneath of administration and giving that to them? Are we taking 2%? Do we have any kind of metrics where we say, as the state gives and takes away, these are the things that we're doing? Because you can dig yourself a hole
Sure.
if you stay stagnant and the state drops. And each year you go above cost of living.
Right.
Well, now we're putting ourselves in a bad position. That's why I want to know, what's the thought process to, what is the revenue coming in? What is that? There's got to be some sort of future plan that we're going to take 3% of all pay, all revenue increases, and that's going to go to employee pay. And that's just a standard across the board. And that may drive our pay raises different every year. But if you don't have something like that, I don't know how you don't present yourself to a situation where you make people so accustomed to getting 3 to 5%, and then they don't get a pay raise, and now you just lost a bunch of teachers because now the rumor is that we don't care about you.
Right.
But if you can present something like, we will share with you when the state increases our rates. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just asking, what's the thought process in revenue that turns around and goes into wages?
I know that we're budgeting very conservatively for a 1.5 drop in enrollment, right? So I think those are the funds that we're using, that we're budgeting for to fund this plan. In addition to, still the thunder, but we have some savings coming from an insurance plan change that we're going to present to you. And we're going to use a combination of that and what we anticipate, even with a 1.5 decrease in student enrollment, to fund this plan.
And we always get at least a 2% inflation increase from the state.
That's the key
lowest
question that I
amount.
have.
That's the lowest
I guess.
amount we will receive is 2%.
Okay,
It
so
could
we
get
could
higher.
always bank on a 2%.
We're always going to get 2%. So we're not planning on using the entire 2%.
No, it's, the exercise should be, we know that we're going to get the 2%. And board members should know should know this information. We should be asking these questions to understand that the minimum is 2%, but we can get 6% next year. And, does that come into a factor that if we anticipated 2% and a 1.5% ADM drop, and the state all of a sudden releases $1 billion and everybody gets an 8% revenue increase, are you going to come back and say, hey, we're going to bump everybody up because we were anticipating a 2% and actually went to 8%? And I'm not saying we need to do that.
Right.
There's got to be some sort of methodology to how we do this.
So historically, we have done that. When the state has come back and it's been more than we anticipated, we've come back to the governing board with an alternative plan. There was a year that we had initially approved 3%, and then we had additional funds come in, and we were able to actually move that an additional 5% to have a total of 8%.
Right.
So that's happened at least 2 or 3 times
Yeah.
in the last couple of years.
So we do have that wording in the contracts.
Yes.
As funding changes,
Right.
then contracts can as well.
Right, no, I know it's there,
Yeah.
but from an administrative perspective,
Mhm.
you have to have a plan on how you address those things, so you're not reacting to, huge increases
Right.
and going, oh, well, it's a windfall. Yeah, that's nice, but if you had a committed way of doing it, it's easier to explain the years where you only get 2%
Right.
and they only receive 0.5%
Right.
across the board increases. Because that aspect of it's connected.
Mhm.
That's a mechanical thing, right?
Yeah.
Versus saying, you chose not to pay your teachers more money, or we chose not to pay the
Right.
teachers more money for no apparent reason.
Yeah. I think some of it too is a function of the sustainability of that new money. If it's just a 1-year bump, it's like, we're not going to give it all. We might give a portion of it. And so we can flatten out. Hopefully it can last us a year or two rather than just a whole bump 1 year. And then now what do we do to fill that void, since we're not going to get that money
Right.
again next
And
year
I
kind
guess
of thing.
to qualify when I say revenue, that would be the consistent revenues.
Mhm.
I don't know, is that 2% something that they can take away the next year?
No.
They have to, okay, so
They're
they have to,
required
be every
give the
year,
2%.
Yep.
this part of the budget is 2% increase every year.
Yeah, if they do that, there have been years where they do one-time bumps, and so we have
Right.
to navigate those differently, of course. But historically, it's what do we anticipate next year is going to be, and then come in whatever that dollar is. We try to come in under that dollar amount, and it's a combination of our money and federal and grant money, because I think we're about 70% of the cost of this program is district money, and then 30% comes through grants, grant-funded positions. And so the number you see isn't 100% on us, but we still try to budget like it is, so it's a conservative number.
No, and I do appreciate the conservative approach to the budget, keeps us out of the headlines.
And the classroom site fund, or 301, whatever we call it now, is supposed to go up to I think somewhere around $850 a kid. I don't remember the exact number, but it's supposed to see about a 4% increase next year, which is why we're comfortable giving more. And our methodology is flatten it out, try to keep at least 1 year in reserve. So if the sales tax tanks, they get that salary again for another year, and we have a year to communicate, hey, we didn't get the revenue we expected. There could be some adjustments in your pay, so plan accordingly. But it gives us a year runway with the classroom site fund money to be able to help our folks kind of weather a storm if it's going to come down.
I think we've been very conservative in passing on those increases to the classroom site fund, so we can sustain that longevity as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay.
So on the teachers, the first year teacher's getting what you're calling the 60,000, which is really a guaranteed 56,800 if they don't get the ESF, right? Is that the first year teacher?
That would be a brand new teacher, yes.
What's
Now-
that look like for the 5-year, 10-year, and so on teachers? Are they tiered, or are they still with the first year teacher?
So if we're talking about a brand new hire to the district, that's based on our placement schedule. So for each year of experience up to 12 years, they get $300 in addition to that base pay. So it depends on what they're coming into the district with 5 years, what kind of education they're coming into the district with, a master's degree, that moves them up along the pay scale. So that's how we calculate someone brand new coming to the district. Now, what I'm gonna go back and do, if governing board approves this, is that now I project, okay, how much can we increase our placement schedule? If we're doing a 3% raise to all of our teachers, how much can the placement schedule absorb in going up? Usually it's about half of that. Just because we don't want to go back to that same issue where you have someone brand new making more than someone who's currently a teacher. So we're very conservative about it as well. We're very intentional about it too.
So a 10-year teacher would only make $3,000 more than a first-year teacher?
No,
Is that?
that would only be if they were brand new to the district.
Right. No, we have two groups of employees, right? So you have those that are currently an employee of the district, and they would have their raise 3% based on whatever the salary is right now. And their salary is very different from the placement schedule because they have had all the increases over time that we just pointed out over the last 10 years. So their salary is much higher than a brand new teacher coming on the placement schedule.
What is a 10-year teacher making right now?
Oh, it varies depending on.
Depends on their education. You can go to classes and submit to move across the placement
Right.
schedule, so depends how much additional education they've had.
Would there be an average?
Do you have a placement schedule?
Average, I mean, probably for,
Yeah, I wouldn't even
but
know.
it
I
just,
think for 10-year teachers?
It could
Because it
be-
depends on if you're talking about 10 years total, 10 years with us, because if they come in with 20 years experience and then 10 with us, that's gonna be a totally different number than just 10 total years of experience, so they're gonna be in a different space too, so it's kind of a challenge. There's the placement schedule, just to kind of get an idea
Okay,
of
I
what
need
it.
my glasses for this one.
No.
So if someone comes to our district and again, first year teacher, doesn't have any experience, they're starting at 44.8. Now, obviously they're eligible for the $12,000 for classroom site fund. And if they meet the metrics for performance pay, then they have that 3,200. So this is where they start off, right? Now, if someone comes to us, first year teacher, and they have a master's degree, then they're gonna start off at 47.6. Plus they're gonna have their performance pay and their classroom site fund base pay as well. So then they're gonna start off at 62.8. Now, if someone comes to us and they have a master's and they have several years of experience, and the board has given us permission to give them up to 12 years of experience and $300 per year. So that they have 12 years, you have 300 times 12, and that's what you add to this amount here. So it's a variety of factors that come into play when you calculate their base pay. But that's separate from our employees that are currently active employees, because their base pay depends on were they here for that raise in 2018, were they not here for that raise? So, but they are much higher than this placement schedule. Good question.
So I think it was a couple years we went back through Red for Ed, and teachers that had been with us for 6 or 7 years, their pay went up by like 57 or 58%. So the brand new teacher coming into us may not have that same pay level because they haven't been here for the 8% raise, the 8% raise, and the 10% raise. So it's going to kind of be a pretty big variance between those two groups. But I wouldn't even know an average number.
We'd have to go and calculate.
Yeah, we'd have to take some time to kind of figure
We could
that out.
provide that in the Friday report, though.
Yeah.
Other thoughts before we move on? Okay. Appreciate the comments. So we're moving on to our special education support. So this is the time we're talking about challenges that we're facing right now and how do we increase support for our special ed classrooms. The governing board has been very supportive the last couple of years in making some changes when it comes to paraprofessionals in our ESS classrooms. And so you can see here a list of all the programs that have had some positive changes. So you can see the paraprofessionals that work in autism, intensive classrooms, extensive classrooms, the whole list here. They have been reclassified to now work 7 hours a day. So there's more time in the classroom as opposed to they were first at 5.5 hours, then there were 6.5 hours, and now they've gone to 7 hours. So we've been very strategic in trying to increase the amount of time that they are supporting the teacher and the students. The second thing is that we've been able to move them from the minimum wage group into a range B, which is higher than the minimum wage group at $16 right now currently. The last program that we have for special ed that hasn't been reclassified is our program that's called moderate support. And so these are special ed paraprofessionals that are currently working 6.5 hours. And we're asking to reclassify them to 7 hours like their peers. All those other programs are listed. And to reclassify them from the minimum wage group to the range above that, which is currently $16. Again, this is going to help with giving more classroom coverage. This is going to help especially when you have duties that the teacher needs support with, you have challenging behaviors in those classrooms. It's also going to help when you have coverage that you need in some of these other programs. Right now you have paraprofessionals say, well, you're going to ask me to cover in that classroom, that paraprofessional gets paid more. They work more hours, right? So even though they're team players and they do that, this helps to kind of justify we need coverage and you're all in the same pay range, you're all working the same amount of hours. And more importantly, there's more time invested in those special ed classrooms that need that support. This is the last group that hasn't been reclassified to that 7 hour mark. And we're talking about 25 people. So it's the smaller group out of all things that we have.
Are they considered full-time at that, where they get the health benefits and the other
Yes,
benefits
they are.
too?
Mm-hmm.
And when
They are
they,
6.5,
I'm sorry, when
Yes.
full-time.
At 6.5?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
went from 5.6 to 6.6 to 7.0, correct?
So they're,
They were at 5.6, 6.6, now they're
so they were at 5.5 hours a day.
5.5, okay. 5.5.
Then they were moved
5.65,
and the board
now
approved
they're
for them to move to 6.5 hour day, and that was a huge win because then
Yes.
they were eligible for health insurance benefits at 6.5 hours.
Okay.
And so last year, the board approved all those other programs to move to 7-hour day. And so this year, we want to move that last group to align with the rest of their peers at 7 hours. So there's 2 requests here, to move them from 6.5 to 7 hours a day, to extend their day, and then to move them from a minimum wage group to that range above.
And we saw a retention from the 5.5 to 6.5 shift,
Right.
which is huge in any setting, but especially in this setting, because this is a challenging one to recruit and retain. So we saw some significant benefit from that, which helps those kids with familiarity and consistency in their environment and the people that they're interacting with. It was a huge, huge win and a huge advantage.
And all of the reclassification requests that are going to come before you, they're all geared towards more support for special ed. Nothing outside that department. Okay.
So
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just thinking, going through, this cost is the cost to the district for the 25 employees.
Yes.
Okay. Because looking at 7 hours at $16 an hour, 200 and something days, roughly 200 days of school, they're making $20,000, $22,000 a year. So this is not a career job. This is something that somebody does because they want to spend their time doing this.
We have a mixture. So I will say that we do have some paraprofessionals that do retire from that role. We do encourage them to have it be a stepping stone for them so they can become a teacher in the classroom. We have ASU, great program, teacher prep program where they work with paraprofessionals. While they're a full-time paraprofessional, they're just going to school with ASU and they become teacher prep program. So
how does the state retirement and paraprofessionals, how does that tie in together? Do those
they are
years
eligible.
count?
Yes, absolutely.
And that
Yes.
was anything over the 6 hours, right?
Anything that's what's called the 20/20 rule. So they work more than 20 hours for more than 20 weeks, then they have to contribute to the state retirement.
Okay.
So
You know,
even
we
our-
have also
so-
had Joy and Blanca and all those guys
Yeah.
in Pecan Grove in this district for
Right.
what, 40-something years?
Well,
They
even
finally retired.
Yeah.
That was their career.
Right, no,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it can't be, it's if your home life provides you the ability to make that your career, but it's not, too young, a couple, they're
No.
not seeking this out to be their career, making $20,000 each. That's not a very livable wage.
No.
For most people. I'm just making sure I understand that, I mean, we value, because I look at what they deal with, there's a lot that they're working with here. And more hours, I'm surprised.
I'm seeing 116 hours, if I did the math right. If we did the 46,405 divided by $16 an hour, divided by the 25 employees, it's 116 hours.
It's a half an hour, right?
it's a half an hour. Yeah.
So it's half of that,
Half of that. Wow.
58 hours. We're adding 58 hours. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any, I guess I'm just talking out loud because I look at, we'll be aligned with other programs, and I look at these programs and it's a lot on their plate.
It is. And we've had an increase in challenging behaviors that we've had to navigate. So just as the special ed director coming in new and looking at the fresh perspective of they're dealing with the same kind of duties and responsibilities that we're seeing in these other programs, it does make sense to make sure that they're aligned so we can have that cohesion amongst our programs and support.
What kind of experience do these employees have to bring to the table for that $16 an hour?
high
What
school
kind of
diploma.
background and experience?
They have to have a high school diploma. They have to go through CPR training. They have to go through CPI training, but we provide that for them. They don't have to come in with that. They have to have a passion. They have to have a passion for those students. They have to have a growth mindset so they can kind of learn what that role is and work well collaboratively with the team, because you're talking about a team of 3 or 4 individuals in a classroom. So we're looking for qualities as opposed to experience. And obviously, if they come in with a resume that they've had experience working with special ed students or different programs like that outside of a school setting, that makes them even more valuable. But we're looking for those ideal qualities where they have the heart and the willingness to be effective in those classrooms.
Is there room to give those that have the more favorable credentials more money, or are they stuck at the 16?
Because we're trying to keep pace with minimum wage, and you can see how rapidly that grows, we don't feel comfortable giving experience for new people coming on board, because we don't run into that same issue of someone coming in and making more than someone who's currently in the district. So because minimum wage, there is no end in sight, That increase is based on the state and the cost of living. We just don't feel comfortable having experience be a factor for our support staff employees at this time. It's been very difficult.
But those staff are at $16 an hour, so if we follow what we're proposing, they'll get that tiered increase of 75 cents or $1, depending on the number of years they've been there.
Right. I guess what I'm getting at is that you're looking for entry-level people to take this position, and if somebody came in with 5 years experience, they're no better than the person that's coming in with 1 year experience in your eyes.
Well, we're seeing, can we sustain that? Will it create an issue that we've worked so hard to alleviate? And when it comes to having someone coming in, we give them 5 years of experience, yet someone who's been here 5 years, if we weren't able to keep the same increase that we had for that placement schedule, then you go back to that issue we had before where there's compression, you have someone making more that just started. So
Right, the position dictates the salary, not necessarily the experience.
Mhm.
So there's not a way to make that 5-year employee can come in at the same pay rate as the person that has the 5 years experience?
just because it's just difficult to justify right now, just because minimum wage has increased so rapidly. And again, it's really unpredictable. Sometimes you have a 50% increase, sometimes you have 75. So it just varies. And
I'm just thinking in my business, you know, if I'm going to hire a journeyman electrician that's got 10 years experience, and I got a guy that's worked for me for 10 years, but yet they're equivalent in experience,
Right.
they should be paid equally.
In an
And
ideal,
what I'm hearing there is that you're not doing that, that you're going to give this 5-year experienced person $16 an hour as a first-year employee regardless.
correct. In an ideal world, we would love to have that structure. So I wouldn't say maybe 10 years ago we had that structure where we would give someone up to 3 or 5 years of experience, if I recall correctly. And we started running into those issues where you had, because we weren't able to pass on the raises that we just showed you. You saw that some years we had a 1% raise, a 1.5% raise. So that didn't equate to the amount of experience, the factor that we gave them for that experience. So you had some people making more than those that have been in the district. So we did away with that. The governing board said that we want to do away with it at that time. And so since then, we haven't revisited that because just the pace of minimum wage is increasing at a rapid rate that we're not able to feel comfortable that if we implemented those changes, we couldn't prevent that from happening again.
See that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have the answer. I'm just thinking out loud on my business perspective that, you know, you're basically handicapping the employees by saying that, you know, you're going to get a first-year experience. So because of that, we're not getting experienced employees because they know that I've got 5 years experience, but you're not going to pay me for my experience. You're going to pay me at the bottom. I'm coming in at the bottom. They're going to go find a job somewhere else. And it's hurting us to find the quality employee because we're not wanting to pay them the quality pay, if that makes any sense.
I would say that it hasn't stopped our district from still getting qualified employees or experienced employees. But yeah, it would be nice to pass on experience factor. I just don't feel comfortable bringing that to the board at this time because I do feel like that's going to create some issues with some employees that are currently in our system right now.
I mean, I understand seniority. I understand that, but you know, it all goes back to experience. And if you got somebody who's got, if I'm going to hire a journeyman, like I said, that journeyman's going to have years of experience to be a journeyman level. I'm not going to hire a journeyman and pay him helper's rate, if that makes any sense, and start bringing him up that way.
No,
Nobody will take the job.
I completely understand.
And so I'm equating that to this, that you've got an experienced para that has an education, has a background, that has some years of experience, but you're going to make them start at the bottom. I don't see a whole lot of them wanting to take that job.
Well, it's the position, right? I understand what you're saying, but it's the position. The position is designed to be an entry-level assistant type position. So using journeyman as an example probably isn't a good idea because it's kind of like saying that, you know, teachers aren't going to get their years of experience because now you have a very specific set of skills and you're hiring for the best there. This, we're not asking for skills, we're asking for heart, right? Because it's an assistant type. So it'd be closer to a welder's assistant. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, class whatever welder. I hired you to be a welding assistant. I'm not going to pay you because you're certified as a welder.
And I guess that's what
you applied for the position.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm getting
at. You should go apply for that position over there. And I think this is a good way to encourage those people that may have 5 or 10 years as para and got their degrees or something like that. So we don't have a para that they say, you know what, I just don't like this. I'm going to be a teacher. And it kind of helps them make that decision, because going from $22,000 a year to $62,000 a year or $63,000 a year, you know, that to me is where we want to drive people, and how do we drive people to where we have more teachers than we know what to do with.
Right. Yeah, I understand it being an entry-level position, but Hartman doesn't pay the bills.
No, and it's not a position that's designed to pay bills at the rate that we have it.
Yeah.
$22,000 is something for people that, you know,
I guess I'm
Walmart
looking at-
greeters are not making a career choice to be a Walmart greeter. Nothing against them. They're using it because that fits a particular situation for them and provides them a little bit of money. And that's how I see the paras. I would rather be able to have enough teachers that we didn't need the paras,
Yes,
right?
I agree
So
100%.
I don't want to try to create a scenario that we create a career situation with paras, when really the end goal is to have certified teachers in the positions where we don't need to have but a handful of paras.
Mhm.
So that's just my 2 cents. I'd rather keep it in a situation that doesn't look very logical on paper, but the end goal is it pushes to become certified teachers and helps us end up being more of a certified teacher scenario than
Yeah.
6 paras to 1 teacher.
I'm just looking at, I guess, what I'm fighting for is the sensitivity of what we have here. Who are they watching? Who are they taking care of? And those are our special needs kids. And you have a kid or a person that just came out of Circle K employment.
Mhm.
They have their diploma, they have their stuff, and and now they're coming to this, but do they have the experience to take care of a special needs child?
I will say that hourly rate hasn't stopped our principals from hiring qualified people that do have experience, right? So I'm sure Leanne can speak to this too, and Danny can speak to it too, as far as you do have applicants that still apply for your district, even though the pay is set at a certain starting rate, that do have experience, that come from other schools, that have experience outside of the school setting, but still working with students.
So we're not having problems finding paras to come to work?
We have applicants. I mean, the main thing we're trying to create is a position that is attractive for them to stay. We can get them into the door, right? We're trying to focus on how can we train them and prepare them to be successful in navigating some of those challenges in special ed. That's really our focus right now.
Mhm.
And there is a group of people that, yes, they're going to increase their education, going to move through that. Those are typically the people that are coming in as a para that want the experience in the classroom because they plan to move into a teacher job. There are many that are not interested in, extending their education. They don't want to do that. They just have a passion for kids. And we want to make sure that those people, we're making them feel welcome and valued, but they don't want the extra responsibility. They don't want they don't want to go to school to increase that. They are quite comfortable with being a paraprofessional. So I think the people that you're talking about that may have that additional experience, education level, they are going to use it as an opportunity to learn and then take that and move forward. But it really, we have a mix. So you often see that with the programs. People will come in and ask, they will come in intentionally looking for a paraprofessional job, and they'll tell you, yes, I'm, this many years away from finishing my degree. I really want to get some experience. I want to have some hands-on learning. Great. So you enjoy that for those 3 years, and then that you've given them that experience, and hopefully you're able to bring them back and hire them as a teacher. So those people that are increasing their education, we typically do bring them back into our system at a higher level. But we also have many people that love just being a paraprofessional.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do have spouses that come in that don't want the responsibility of grades and paperwork and all those things, but they just want to be able to come in and have an impact on kids.
Right.
And those are a lot of our applicants for
They get a little
paraprofessionals.
spending money for their trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say if retention was an issue, or finding paras was an issue, we probably, definitely need to look at how do we retain them, but do we have?
I think that we've been taking some positive steps to have more things in place to retain our pairs. I think number one was giving them that insurance. That was huge for our districts when we moved them from 5.5 to 6.5.
Yeah.
When the board passed 2 years ago, the ability for them to earn holiday pay after 2 years of working at a 6.5 position, that was huge as well. So those things are helping us keep paras in those positions. It's still a hard to fill position, don't get me wrong, right? But there are some things that we've done to make it more effective for them to stay in those classrooms.
Can I make a point here?
Absolutely.
One of the things I had the opportunity to work with paras at Castledome, I worked with them when they were making minimum wage.
Yes.
You'll have your two categories with paras, the ones that have that special relationship with our students. And people don't know all the stuff they do, activities of daily living, if you know what I mean? They
Yes.
go with all
Yes.
that they have to do, especially hygiene. We won't go too deep into that, but it's a difficult and sometimes. And then they're the paras that do it for a career. You know, I talked to them that they were happy just being in that job, and if they were looking forward to retirement with the district as a para.
Yep.
That was their job. Then you got the paras that strive to be a teacher, like Ms. Tatum, for example, worked, and they worked up to that. So you had those two categories, but at the end of the day, those paras, the relationship that they had with the students, the loyalty they had to the district, and that compassion to stay over on their own time and make sure that the student that didn't listen to another one, but listen to that one, they stay on their own time to make sure they got on that bus. I worked with these people, and they're beautiful people. And like I said, there's two ways of thinking about it, but they were doing it at minimum wage. With this increase and with this increase in the benefits, it just makes it a whole lot better.
Yeah.
So like I said, I was privileged to work with them, and they're just beautiful people. They are.
Thank you.
And they're bilingual too.
All right, let's move on to our next reclassification request.
Okay, so as we saw in the last board meeting, the number of ESS students continues to grow. And so we really need to be able to attract and retain the service providers that provide all the services for these students, or for these kiddos, really. So we're suggesting a 1 pay range increase for the therapists, which would be your OT, PT, occupational therapist, physical therapist, speech language pathologist, and then your psychologist. Really so that we can be more competitive with other districts.
And I think one thing that's important to know is that we have to provide these services to these students. So if we can't find someone who's going to be an employee in our district, then we have contracted services that we have to retain.
Yes.
And Jamie has a number for you of how much we've spent on contracted services.
$2.5 million for a year.
Yeah, it's just.
For a
the
year.
year?
Yep.
So when, again, we can't find an OT, PT, a speech person, or a psychologist, then we have to provide those services still. So we have to contract out to a company who's going to lease us an employee, and those rates are dramatically higher than what we
Yes.
pay. So keep that in mind as we talk about a small step that we want to recommend when it comes to reclassification. So the next slide shows you just kind of a brief market study of that position. So we look at the OT, PT, school psychologists, all the related services at ESS, they're currently at range 6. So someone brand new to our district is coming in, there's 69,000. You compare that to our neighboring districts, which you can see in yellow. I won't name the districts, but you can see. Otherwise, Danny's going to have a little bit of a heart attack.
Skip it.
Very competitive, but you can see that they are higher than our starting salary. So we're asking for a very conservative reclassification here to move those employee groups just one range, which equals $5,000 increase because each range is separated by $5,000. If we did that, then our starting salary now would be $74,000, which the goal is you have a brand new psych or a PT or a speech person saying, oh, which is the district that's paying higher, right? And then we would be their first choice. Again, it's a small step. It's not going to fix the 2.5 million right away, but it's a small step to chipping away at that.
But what it does is it maybe prevents us from getting deeper into that
Correct.
2.5.
Correct.
We keep our employees, however special ed is growing, that's our
Yes.
issue, is special ed is growing faster than we're able
Correct.
to get psychologists and OTs and, occupational therapists, physical therapists.
And really the goal is a lot of those contracted services, especially with speech, is all provided virtually, right? So a student comes in with a paraprofessional and they go and they see a speech person that's delivering those services virtually. Our goal is to get away from that and hire in-person therapy, this is part of that goal to get there, so.
So this pay scale and this part of, we had we approved phase 1 at the board meeting. And is this part of phase 2?
This is separate from that plan. This is just about reclassification of attracting and retaining staff for related services.
Right, but phase 2 is to be able to start hiring some of these people here that we're talking about right now, right?
Phase 2, I've got to go back and look at her plan, but I think phase 2 was looking at different like coordinators.
And I think it was adding additional FTE.
There you go. That's what it
And
was.
this particular one is reclassifying the current FTE we have so we can attract and fill because we do have some positions we could fill if we could find people. But since we can't find them, then we have to spend the $2.5 million. So this is just trying to make it more attractive so that we can reduce the 2.5 because we have actual people filling the open positions we have now that we just can't get applicants to take those jobs.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the big difference. And then I think phase 2 is, do we need to add another FTE to some of these positions to make sure we're meeting the need of the growth? If I'm a current employee of the district, what happens to me with this 5,000 bump? Do I get a 5,000 bump? Is that prorated? How does that look?
So you would get whatever raise is passed on to you, approved by the governing board, and then you would get an additional $5,000 so that you are ahead of anyone coming into the district.
Yeah.
That's how reclassification works. That's how we process it in the past in our district.
So you do the 3% and then you do the reclassification.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I got that. Yeah.
That's the order that we're going with. We've done the math.
Yeah.
I do think it is very important because we have a limited amount of people that are coming out with this skill set. And when we are competing with all of our neighboring districts. And then in addition to that, some people are local but still choose to work for a contractor because the contractor will pay them more. So we end up paying more, but they're looking for that higher pay, which they can get from the contractor. So we have to get to a point where we're more competitive, where they will choose to just be our direct employee rather than us having to have the middle contractor to do that. So the more that we can make our pay attractive for this group will really, I think, serve us well, especially the ones that are coming out. Or there are speech language programs that the universities are doing locally, but if we're the lowest one, we're gonna be their last look. So that's why we're like, once we found out we were behind, we're like, oh, we have to fix that because we don't want that to be the reason that they're immediately looking at other places. We have to be competitive or they won't even consider us.
Right.
And that particular group actually does look all the time at the neighboring.
Oh, yes.
districts.
Yeah, they
Right.
do.
They can.
How many people are in this group, in this list of occupational therapists?
Let's
Is
see
it
here.
Roughly 35?
Not quite that many.
No, it's going to be about 25, I would think, yeah.
Speech language.
I can
So
actually.
you got about 25 people, and I'm just looking at the numbers. I mean,
Well, it
ideally,
could be because we have a lot of speech language.
I can give you the number right now.
Yeah.
because I just took the 172, divided that by 5,000. I think it came out to 34 or something like that. Is that right?
I know.
So while we're talking about that, we know the neighboring district prices, we see that. Do we know our competitors' prices so that we may be able to take a look at that about bringing them on board? You know, you're saying that we're competing
the
against the outside
contractors?
sources, the contractors.
Yeah, we can't.
We can't compete
You
with them.
can't.
It's like 100 plus an hour that they make for doing
I'm
that.
going to give you numbers right now.
Well,
Okay,
and
I was just saying,
that
could you just
company's
divide this
making
number by
that money,
5,000?
the
That's not what the person's
necessarily
making,
making
right?
that.
My
And
mom,
we don't
I have the
know,
numbers
we
here.
don't know how
Exactly.
much they're making.
that
We just
would
know how
be,
much they charge us.
Okay. Psychologists, we're talking about 13 positions. Okay. Speech, we're talking about 10 people, so that's 23. And then our therapists, OT and PT, we're talking about 5 more. 28.
so 28.
28 individuals. And that's,
So if you could eliminate that contract, $2.5 million contract, you can more than double your staff and stay under that $2.5 million at the $75,000 salary. And I'm pretty sure that you're not getting the same number of hours out of that $2.5 million if you had staff.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Right, so-
Contracted hours, yeah.
So you're probably getting half the man hours for that service. Whereas if you eliminated that service completely and hired, you can hire twice as many.
Mhm.
So that's a good thing to look at.
I'd like to know what our competitors in the
Oh,
contractors,
contractors?
yeah, I mean, because I'm not looking at competing with the schools or with our districts, I'm looking at competing with the contractors. And what are we gonna do to be able to get them to come up, come aboard?
So one thing we do have to keep in mind though, is that we have to think about the hierarchy of the positions in our district too, right? So we have to balance, when you're looking at reclassifying, you can't reclassify them to a level where now they're making more than an assistant principal or a principal. So we have to just think about the hierarchy of positions that we have in our district. So that's why this is the first step that we're taking when we're trying to evaluate how high can we move them first without disrupting the hierarchy of other positions. So we just have to think about the balance of all that in human resources as well, because we have to justify it. Then you'll have an assistant principal coming to you, well, how do you have a psychologist making more than me? Or a principal, why is a psychologist making more than me and I'm leading an entire school, right? So those are just factors that we have to keep in mind as well.
One of the other benefits too is,
I've got a lot to say about that. Choices in life.
the
Yeah,
work schedule's a little
100%.
different too, with working for our district than working for our contractor. So they do get the additional time with their family by working at a school district that you lose out on when you take a contractor's position. So there are some other benefits. I know you can't eat,
There's
eat
trade-offs.
that, but that's kind of that, where are you at in life and what are you valuing? Because one of the other challenges, it's great that you come to our district and you pay into the state retirement system, but that's also a challenge for a lot of people because that's 12% off the top that I had no choice over. I'm glad I'll have retirement in 40 years. How do I feed, eat, clothe today, right? And so that's a challenge that we run into when it's our pay versus contractor pay too, is they could take a cut in pay and bring home more because they're not getting that 12% taken out.
That's true. They're different. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I still like it.
Yep.
Is this one mine?
It is.
So we got speech language pathologist assistants, or SLPAs. So similarly to the therapist, we want to be able to attract and retain these SLPAs, as most of them will continue their education and become an SLP, speech language pathologist, not just the assistant, which is what we're talking about right now. So yes, we want to be able to retain them, and most of them do stay once they've moved from the SLPA to the SLP. So what we're talking about here is moving again from one range to another. This is your slide.
Yeah, this is mine. It's the
Yep.
same thing.
Go
It's
ahead.
the same movement. So you're moving from range 1, which is starting at 44,000, to range 2. Very conservative first step. And that puts us at 49,000. So if you look at our neighboring districts, yeah, they might be a little bit more ahead, but we're still at that market value without making a dramatic jump forward. So we can be competitive. We do have a lot of interest when it comes to people that are going through the speech program. And so far, they've been choosing our district to start their career as an SLPA. So again, this is an investment in a pipeline that eventually will turn into an SLP, which is very hard to find. So it's almost like part A and part B of reclassification.
I mean, I bet you 3 out of 5 parents I talk to say their kids in a speech pathologist.
Yeah.
It's quite it's
It's
a
big.
lot more than I.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a way to bump that to where we are the top dog?
Well, if they come in with experience, and that'll help them move along that range there. So if someone comes in with 1 or 2 years of experience, up to 20 years of experience in that range. So every year counts as 1% on top of the base. So there's some flexibility there. I think we're close enough that I wouldn't want to go another range and disrupt that. I think that would be too dramatic. I feel comfortable that with the experience factor that we can still be competitive with those 2 districts.
So range 2 is fixed at the 49 is what you're saying?
That's the
base.
starting without any experience. Now, if you have
It's
more
49 to
experience, then you can
58.
go to 58.
Now, the neighbors, is that their base also?
That's their base, yes.
Okay.
What's that?
$1.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
I'm gonna drive down to
Yeah.
Gadsden for $1.
yeah, the gas, yeah.
$359. and the good part about if you're able to increase the number of SLPAs that you can hire, that reduces the amount of contracting, because then we can take their contracting down to supervising
Yeah.
rather than providing service, because they just have to have an SLP that supervises them.
Yeah.
It can significantly reduce the cost, because what we pay for them to provide service is vastly different than what we pay for them to supervise our actual SLPAs that are providing that. So it's a win-win, because now kids are getting a face-to-face person,
Yeah.
and we're reducing the cost that we have to do. So
Yep.
the more that we can get those SLPAs in, it's a win-win.
I see that 49,358, 49,359. I'm gonna ask again, we can't go 49,360?
I'm hoping they come in with some experience and move further along.
Well, and if they
I mean, you know,
already
if we're gonna talk a dollar,
work here, right, if they already work here, they're gonna get the 3%
right?
and the
Yeah.
5%.
And this range is current, not including the 3%, or is this
Correct.
including the
This is our
3%?
current placement schedule.
Yeah, so that goes
Yeah.
up 3%.
Well, then why didn't we say that?
Well, because we don't know the 3% is going
Because
to be
we haven't
approved,
approved
right?
it.
I'm using current
Potentially,
data.
yes, yes.
Okay, so that will put us above our districts.
Potentially, yes.
Okay, that's where I'm heading.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Unless they go up 3.1.
Oh. Don't give them any ideas.
No.
We are usually the first ones to come up with a compensation from all the neighboring districts, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Follow the leader.
Yeah.
$1,470, so
Put them over 5.
50, 470. Well, that puts them over $1,000 ahead.
Okay. So thoughts, I wanted to stop there before we move on to our next recommendation. Thoughts on the reclassification recommendation from the committee from special ed department?
I just think we're heading in the right direction. Really, it's not a thought, it's not just my comment.
Okay.
That we all know that is the area that's growing a lot, and it needs a lot of attention. You know, at the board meeting again, we were all told that for the last 7 years, they've been ignored. Or, well, maybe that's my word. Things have not been going their way for the last 7 years, and it's time to play catch up. And I think that we're heading in the right direction for sure on that. And I like to see that, you know, they're gonna feel like we want them there.
Right.
And that's what we need. We need them to feel like that. We need them, we want the cream of the crop. You know, that's the way I look at that. If we're gonna be number one, we need to be number one.
Right.
And we need to treat them like number one. And I think doing this, we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you. Other
Yeah, you meet the
thoughts?
needs of the students, which is the priority, meeting the needs of every student. Love the idea of going away from virtual, because that also takes somebody to be with the student.
Correct.
Whether it's a paraprofessional. And I think, just as Jeff said, you're taking pressure off the system, the staff that's in there, and that's gonna, at the end of the day, help with the recruitment. And then I wrote down career pathways. I see how you're
Yes.
establishing career pathways for folks
Mhm.
within the system to be supported.
Gotta keep them just on enough of an edge
Yeah.
to help them take that next step.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
You don't want to create
Yeah.
complicity.
As long as we're $1 higher than Gadsden.
$1 higher, okay. Crunch those numbers.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go to our last request, and then we're gonna transition to health insurance.
Okay, so during the crash of 2007, 2008, we had to make several cuts here and cuts to staff and cuts to budget, just like everybody else had to. And so during that time, we made some days, non-working days, for year-round employees. And so what that meant was that if you're an hourly employee, you didn't work that day, you also didn't get paid that day, so your check is different than it would normally be on your every 2-week, 80-hour, you know what I'm saying here.
Salary.
Yes, well, hourlies, 80 hours.
They're coming.
So their check would be short. It would not be the same amount that they're accustomed to every 2 weeks, working the whole 80 hours. So these days are, there's 2 days during March that fall during spring break. There's a day in November that's near Thanksgiving, and there's 2 days in December near Christmas break. And so during those times, your checks are smaller. So what we would like to do is bring back those days and have them not be non-working days for all year-round employees. So that's maintenance, custodial, transportation,
Departments.
departments.
This only pertains to hourly employees.
Yeah.
Right?
So
it's
basically, it's 6 days more paid. Well, I guess for year-round count, how does that work?
So,
Is
yeah,
it 6 or is it 5 for one group and
it's
one
5 for
for?
one group and 1 for another group.
Okay,
Yes.
so basically, you're increasing one group's 5 days, paid days off,
Right.
and another group 1 day paid off is what you're asking.
Yeah, we're reinstating those. They used to be holidays and they were taken away, and now we're asking them to go back to being holidays for them, so they don't have a disruption in pay.
How does that work? It's interesting.
So they're
So,
hourly
yeah.
employees. So depending on the pay cycle, if they work the first full week before winter break, and then the next week they only have 2 days of holiday, then those 3 extra days are not going to be accounted for in that biweekly pay. So their check will be shorter.
And they don't have the option to work.
No,
Correct.
no,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Correct.
And
Yeah, it'd be
that's what-
different if there was
Yeah.
the opportunity, but
Yes.
Right.
we've taken the opportunity away and the pay with it, and it just doesn't feel right.
So it's not a federal holiday and it's not, it's okay.
And you can't use your general leave in order to
Right.
get paid
No.
for that.
Right.
So they can't even out their check by using their
Right.
leave because it's a non-working day. So they can't work and they can't.
Kind of like the summer days.
Right, and for those of us that were on a contract that were certified during that time, they were furlough days. And so when the furlough days went away, that was lifted off of us, but it didn't get lifted off of, you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. So we want to show you everything we've discussed thus far. So what does it add up to? So you can see here a list of the increases, and we itemized it by teacher increase. This doesn't include the 301 or classroom site fund increases, just your base pay increase. Your exempt employees, we broke it down. Admin, how much does it cost for that tiered employee increase for our employees above minimum wage, those at minimum wage. We've talked about the ESS paraprofessional reclassification. We've talked about what we call IS, right? So you're a psychologist, you're a therapist, reclassification. And then our SLPA reclassification, and then what we just talked about right now, which was the working calendar revision. So you add all that up, there is the price tag there, $2.8 million. But not all of that is funded, like Mr. Ponder said, out of maintenance and operations.
And some of that it's based on the FTE positions we have assigned, but since a lot of those positions aren't filled, like specifically the IST, they're not all filled, there's vacancy savings built into this number as well. So that's the absolute most that it would cost. About 2 million would be out of M&O, but it would probably cost us less than that just due to vacancy savings that we have on an annual
But
basis.
the 2.8 is full FTEs. Is that what you just said?
Yeah,
Yes.
if every spot we had was filled, right? Yes?
You want to bring up transportation back to
Yes.
construction as well.
Yeah.
So the rest of that percentage there will be covered by grants or by our consortium. So really, that's just half. The transportation consortium, the cost is just half to us. The rest is billed to the other district.
Yeah, I
But
was
we
just
did
looking at
count
the-
them as a whole.
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
number.
I was just looking at the number that is with all positions filled.
Mhm.
All positions, all funds
Yep.
as well. And it's being very conservative in the employee group that has minimum wage, that 50-cent projected increase, it might not be 50%.
Right.
And we're calculating the entire school year. We're not showing just half the school year from
Okay.
January to June. So we're being very conservative there now.
Okay. I don't see anything out there for school board members, but.
Yeah. I know, I want a raise. 100% of zero, right? We'll double it.
Just like that. Okay.
So we want to see a visual. We always like to say, okay, what are our priorities when we're talking about this compensation recommendation? So you can see the visual here, the largest investments going to our teachers at 33%. You're seeing the second largest group is going to those above minimum wage at 27%. And the third largest group is going to those at minimum wage. And then the rest of the groups fall under those percentages. So it's just a good visual to kind of remind ourselves, what are those priorities when we're talking about this compensation investment for the governing board, for the district, for our employees. And this is a great visual for our compensation committee so they can know exactly what our priorities are moving forward. Okay, I want to stop there. I know there was a lot of information. Do we need a little break, stretching break, or do we want to?
Well, I'm curious, I just have one more
Oh,
question.
sure,
This is
absolutely.
more directed kind of everybody at the table.
Okay.
The administrators, right? So there's a 3% salary increase for all administrators?
For all exempt employees, yes, including administrators, yeah.
Okay. Is there, I know during times that salaries were, I know it went both ways, right? I mean, teachers received about a 50% increase over time. Administrators didn't. We had, a couple of years ago, we had a pretty big reclassification for that. How does that pan out going forward where administrators always receive the same as the rest of the exempt? Are they ever, kind of segmented out there? Because there is a salary gap.
Mhm.
There's a big salary gap there, or not big, but there is a salary gap.
So that's a great question, and I think you can see here by this graph, the last 10 years.
Yep.
There's some variances, right? So you can see when teachers were more investment, and then what stands out when you start seeing after that reclassification occurred in this school year, then you start seeing we were at a place where we felt we fixed a lot of those compression issues. So now the best thing to do was to move people along where they were at, right? And so that's why you see that there's equal salary increases for those groups moving forward from that school year. So we feel like we put in a lot of work to restore the teacher pay, support staff pay, administrator pay. And so from that point on, that's where you started seeing them move together in tandem.
You're going exactly where I was gonna go.
Yeah, because they're not always going to be connected at the hip. I know.
Well, you can see that right there, that 8% teachers, 3%, and then they kind of went side by side, and they dropped back here. There was another difference
there's
here, a couple of differences here,
Right.
where teachers are here, admin here, teachers here, admin, teachers, admin, and then they were even, teachers, admin, even. I'd even mentioned that last year to Mr. Ponder when we had the same conversation. Was at that time I didn't understand that. And my question was, why is the admin getting the same thing as the teachers?
Right.
And
Well, I'm just wondering in the thought process, right, that administration is or is not always connected at the hip going forward with this, the new structure and folks that we have. Is that going to be connected always? Is that something that's looked at like, hey, we got the minimum 2%, so leaders are going to say, we're going to take a sacrifice and do just the cost of living and push more money out that way. Because that is one of the topics that comes up, not frequently, but it is a topic that comes up anytime we do these types of things. You're going to get people that are going to say, well, administrators are always going to give them, it's just like Congress always gives themselves a pay raise. People can provide themselves pay raises. They don't understand it goes through a board and a meeting like this to go through it. But I'm just looking at what is, I guess, Dennis and everybody here that's at the table, but the general idea, what is that? Is it permanently connected at the hip going forward? Is it subject year over year? What's the thought process?
I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would say for me, philosophically, is they're generally joined at the hip. One of the things we want to do is maintain those gaps that we have so that there's opportunity for advancement that makes financial sense. And there are those promotional opportunities that motivate people to go, okay, if I move up, if I get additional credentials, education, I get this pay increase for this jump. And so that's one of the things that we look at too. The other one, I don't know the number. I know 5%. I could math it out. I think it's $150,000, $200,000 that goes towards the administrative piece out of the whole
Right.
$2 million, $3 million bucket.
Let's go back.
So we could say zero to administrators, but that would be a couple $100 spread out across everybody in the district. So it's not a material
No, it's not.
change. But
143.
for me, philosophically looking at it, really good leadership matters. And so that comes at a cost. There's just having people that know what they're doing and know what they're leading, I think makes a huge difference. And then valuing everyone for their skill set, their experience, their choices, their opportunities, where they are, where they want to be, I think is an important environment to create within the organization as well.
I think we also have to look at the classroom site fund because that's
Yeah.
right now $15,000 in addition to teacher's base pay.
Mhm.
So grouping that together, that's not reflective on this, right? So grouping that together, we have to always, and HR is always monitoring every year. So I would say that we do evaluate it every year to see, are there any potential compression issues that are going to be starting to happen, because we are increasing 301 funds
Yeah.
dramatically as well.
What's your starting principal salary?
93,000.
Okay. Because you could see where this classroom site fund continues to increase, and a teacher starting that whole package,
Right.
the benefit
Yes.
package is close to 60,000 plus
Right.
with insurance, that all of a sudden that's going to surpass the
Correct.
administrator, and you're going to lose that pool of teacher candidates that want to become,
Right.
because you're going to lose that gap.
Which is where we were at when we did the reclassification. That was the justification, is we had some instructional coaches that were making just as,
That was me.
there you go. Just as much as
Me, I was
starting.
coaching brand new teachers. I mean, and that's what I say. I heard when you said to sacrifice, that's exactly what we did before. I was on the compensation committee at that time, and, you know, it was, we'll do this to increase teacher pay. So the only group that got increased were teachers, beginning teachers. And then that's when I got compressed. And I got in that group of compression, and that's how I ended up. We had a brand new teacher that I'm coaching is making more money, and I've been with this district for 15 plus years. And so
Yeah, that's-
when Luciano came on board, and there was a lot of work put into, you know, fixing that issue. And because that was 1 year that it was like, hey, everybody take it, you know, take this and we'll do what we need to do that sacrifice. But it created a problem that lasted for years. And as a person who had been committed to the district the entire time, it was hard to swallow. Like, that's really hard to go in. I'm putting in more work, I'm providing professional development, and this person is collecting a bigger paycheck than me. You do it because you hope that it is going to eventually get fixed. But I think if we get into a situation where we say, oh, let's sacrifice, what happens is we're gonna get ourselves back into another situation where we have to then put in all that to fix it. And I think that's where you wanna stay away from that. You know, administrators have a lot of responsibilities, and their job is very important. There's not as many of them, so you can see, but if you take it and then you're constantly saying, but you don't matter, or your work doesn't count, so you're gonna take 0 this time, people will do that for so many times before then they're like, you know, and I think that's the part, is you want people high quality, you want to be able, like in any employee group, so they're a small piece of the pie, but they're super important, because a leader at a school has great impact on the way that school operates and in the success that they have. So we want to be able to attract quality people. And I think if we get into those situations where we're asking them to sacrifice for, it just doesn't, it's not going to come out in a really good way, because we're going to end up with those gaps again.
Right.
And you're going to end up with somebody that you're expecting to lead a school where maybe one of their teachers is making more money than them.
Right, no, and I'm
That's
not
not going to be
saying,
palatable.
yeah, no, the reason for my line, and I've asked the question more, similar questions before in the meeting, specifically because we have new faces at the table. And you need to have that pushback to say, what's the thought process behind it, right? I mean, we have new people. What's your thought process? You have to think through it. You can't just say, oh, well, it was all exempt, people got 3%.
Right.
And we're in that exempt group, right? I mean, us as, we're the stewards, you guys are just as much as stewards of the public money too. But those questions have to be, you have to be challenged as to your decisions. And that's, I'm not questioning your integrity or what you're doing. I'm challenging you, I think, hopefully in a constructive way.
And remember the passion.
Yes, there was a lot over here.
It's just, I was compressed for a long time. It was.
And made her depressed.
Try getting compressed and furloughed in the same.
How does our admin
It's
fare
not fun.
with the other districts?
Part of the reclass was looking
what
at those
that was.
comparatively to get them, so I think we're very competitive in those.
Yeah, we are competitive, but I will tell you, other districts are being very intentional to be on par with us or even try to catch up to us.
So we're at the top of the game then for admin pay compared to the districts?
The high school district is still higher
Yeah.
in compensation than our district.
We
And
knew
it's
that
very
when we
interesting
made
because the
changes.
smaller districts towards south
Yes.
of us, they keep up with us. So they have much smaller schools, much less to
Smaller
do. And they're paying their principals technically equal to ours. We do a lot more than some of the smaller.
Even
some
their
smaller
district
districts.
level positions, they're trying to reclassify to our level when you
Yeah.
can't compare 18 schools with
Mhm.
10 or 5 or,
Yeah.
so yes.
But they're also,
yes.
that 171, the 71%,
Mhm.
that you go farther down, it's 85.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
when you look
Yeah.
at their books, it's different.
And it could be, and I think it might even be going to 86, 87 now.
Right, they
It's-
start looking at sustainability.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
One,
Yeah.
one bad year can put them into
Yeah.
a bad situation.
So educate me then on this. How do we, with 18 schools, how are we financially competing with somebody that has 10 schools when, you know, your money is based on student population?
Because they're spending more of their own in.
Right.
They're more at
They-
risk than us.
Larger
There's-
percent of the
there's-
cost.
Yeah, they're
is
spending
on
more, yes,
salaries.
of their.
They're in the
keep up.
danger zone, you're saying?
They
Right,
are.
so
Potentially.
we've got, if I
Yeah,
understood what
we're-
you said right, we have a year grace to cover in a bad year.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I would challenge whether or not
Where
these
they're
other
at.
districts can
Right.
carry a year
They're right on
on
the
a
cliff.
turn down.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I think some of it is what we're trying to expand outside of just the teacher in the classroom. So the behavior support programs and some of those other things we're trying to grow, take resources away from the salary and benefit packages that we can provide, but I think it provides a better overall experience for our teachers and having the support that they need. So some of it's a strategic placement of resources and what we want to value and how we want to look at those. Some school districts choose to sweep their M&O or their DAA into M&O to offer higher salaries and benefits, but then what do you do in capital situations? So there's different ways to play that game.
Okay, I would
It's a takeover, right? So when the district down the street fails, we just take them over.
Well, that was just, that's kind of, yeah.
Now we
Can we strike that from the record?
I like the thinking.
Oh,
no.
Elementary district, right?
Yeah.
Let them do what they need to do. and-
Well, I mean, those districts are also seeing the decrease in population too, right? And are their decreases equaling our decreases?
It's across the state.
It varies.
I mean, we're all
Yeah.
seeing the same thing across the board. Is that true?
So varying percentages, our decrease was not as strong as some of the other districts.
So
and
they're
what
decreasing even
experiencing.
more,
Some of them are, yes.
and yet they're still trying to keep up with us on pay.
Because you have to try to retain,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what you have. Yeah, that's kind of the double-edged sword is how are we going to do more with less money?
And stay out of retainership.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Playing a game of chess.
Sorry, still prepare for all the inevitables as well.
Mhm.
They're just gonna happen.
Right.
That happen across a large district like ours. So luckily, we not only have that reserve for compensation, but we also have the reserves to manage our aging buildings.
Yeah.
It's just another- Yeah.
And then when you get to Phoenix, it's a whole different world because
Yeah.
they have different chunks of money that we just,
Well, they've had
we
some
could ask for
closures.
overrides,
Lots.
which,
You're right.
some go over well, some don't. We had an override for a while before 2008 that didn't get renewed, and then that
That's my
led to
understanding.
some funding and salary issues in our district. And then there's desegregation money throughout the state that nobody in Yuma gets that is a different chunk of money too.
And the value, the competing or other districts is valuable information, but definitely it's a slippery slope to try and keep up,
Mm-hmm.
do what's right and maintain the longevity.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate the conservative approach to
Mhm.
these aspects of ensuring that we have the resources
Mhm.
in a down year.
Yep.
Planning for the future.
Do we need a 5-minute break or should we just continue on? It's almost 7:00.
Leave it up to everybody.
Oh, no, you cookie.
Okay, cookie break?
I brought my pillow and my blanket.
I love it.
Recess for
You're gonna
5
be good?
minutes.
Okay,
Is that what
5
you
minutes?
want?
Okay.
Bring this meeting back to order.
Anybody have any questions?
Out of recess? I'm not really sure.
That works.
Anybody have any
All in
questions?
favor, say aye.
Ask a question here.
All right. I want to say we're on the home stretch, but I think we still have quite a bit left. It's the last topic. It's the last topic, okay? But we did put a lot of thought into this next recommendation, talking about, we're going to pivot now to talk about insurance benefits. So before we do so, let's kind of just catch up on what we currently have in place. So take a moment to review this slide here. In the green, you're going to see this is our base employee plan for our district when it comes to health insurance, medical insurance for our employees. So it's called the high deductible health plan, and there's a deductible of $2,000 in green. And so you can see here for employee only, you can see 946 employees are in that base plan.
How much was that deductible?
2,000. If they add their spouse,
I don't plan.
then you can see 18 people have that base plan plus their spouse. If they have their children, 32 people have that plan, right? If they have their entire family.
Deductible becomes like 4,000.
Yes, it
Yes.
does, right? Yes,
Yes.
4.
So that's the base plan. They can choose to buy up to a PPO plan, preferred provider plan of $1,000 deductible. And you can see 50 employees have chosen to do so. And they can even buy up to a more richer plan, which is $750 deductible. That's 16 employees there too. So there's 2 takeaways I want you to see from this slide. Number 1, that the majority of our employees are on the employee only free plan, our base plan, high deductible of $2,000. That's one takeaway. The second takeaway is that you don't see a lot of numbers when it comes to adding dependents under the health insurance, right? And so that leads us to our next slide here. So this shows you the cost for the plan. So I circled the $896 cost because that's what the district is paying for. For any employee who's eligible for health insurance, we're paying that monthly cost for the base plan, which is high deductible, $2,000 deductible. In addition to that monthly cost, we pay an annual cost of $1,200 for contributions to a health savings account. Okay, so I believe that totals close to $12,000 per employee. If you add in the $896 times 12 plus the $1,200 HSA contribution. So if an employee wants to add their spouse, then the difference between this number and this number is what they're paying every month. Right, so the $896 minus the 1628, that amount is what they're paying. So just keep that, and again, just some current knowledge about what we currently offer our employees and what the cost is.
Per month?
Per month, yes.
The 1,200 is annual, and then the
Right.
896 is per month. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So since the beginning of just talking about being self-funded, and maybe even prior to that, I think I was a board member before I started working at this district. I was a board member here, and we did talk about at that time, is there any way you can make it a little less expensive for the staff members so they can add their dependents or their spouse, or maybe even a little less expensive for that PPO plan? Because that's a richer plan. And so I think that's what the district has been working towards this whole time. So some of the challenges that we've seen and some feedback we've gotten is, the high deductible, it's really difficult to meet that $2,000 high deductible amount, or $4,000 if you have your child or your spouse on that plan, before you actually start paying a percentage, right? You gotta pay the $2,000 first. Then when you go to the doctor, you pay a percentage. The other thing that we've heard from staff is they just delay their care. I can't afford to pay the upfront out-of-pocket costs, so I'm not going to go to the doctor. The other things we've heard is just, really having more predictability about what it's going to cost when I go. I'm going to go to a specialist and I'm on the high deductible. How much is that going to cost me? Who knows? Because you don't have a copay. You have your deductible. And then beyond that, you have a percentage. So we already talked about dependent care. This year, we had a little bit of an issue with our Mexico network coverage. We were under the impression that anybody on our insurance could go to Mexico and get coverage for the $5. Everything was going to be $5. Prescriptions maybe $5 or free, depending on. But it turns out that Mexico also has to follow the rules of the high deductible. And so the employees have to meet their deductible of the $2,000 before they can pay the $5 for care.
And that was a change for us.
It was. It was.
So
a
we were
change.
really spending a lot of time educating our employees, saying if you go down this route and go seek care in Mexico, you're only paying $5 for copays. Your copays for prescriptions are dramatically lower. So we have all these employees saying, yes, we like those services. We're seeing a lot of great things happening from that. And then we had this regulation change that was communicated to us. And so now we have employees that are very frustrated about that because they're used to paying these lower copays, but now they found out they have to meet the $2,000 deductible before those can be effective.
Yeah. And then this year, we also put into place Garner. Garner is a HRA, so it's a reimbursable account. And people who are on the PPO plan, they're doing fine with Garner, but anybody with a high deductible, you have to meet $1,650 of your deductible before you can start getting any reimbursement from Garner. So again, it's that high deductible that's causing
A barrier, yeah.
a barrier.
Mhm. So again, we were not entertaining bringing a recommendation to make any changes to our health insurance plan because we thought we were at least 2 or 3 years away from being close enough to have that conversation. So this year we talked to our third-party consultant and she brought us numbers based on our claims. And we compared our current rates for the high deductible health plan, you see those in green. And then you looked at the PPO plan, which is, in our opinion, a better plan. And the difference for the employee-only plan is only $28. So when we saw that, we said, well, it's worth a conversation to entertain that for this year. So we want to show you a detailed slide here that compares both of those plans, the high deductible health plan and the PPO plan. And just seeing what are some of those differences before we go into our recommendations. So we'll give you a moment just to cut, it's a lot of information, but I would encourage you to start by just looking at the comparisons between the plan in red, the high deductible health plan, and then the plan in green, the PPO.
I'm so sorry.
Crunch away. You want to play some background music?
I'll get some chips and go.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure you've noticed the difference between the high deductible and the PPO. Right away, you see that you can just pay a $30 copay when you go to the doctor, right? So not worrying about, I'm not gonna go to the doctor because I have high deductible, I don't know how much it's gonna cost me, I haven't met my $2,000 yet, or I've got my family on it, I have $4,000 to meet. Nope, instead you can go to the doctor right away and it's gonna cost you $30. If you go to a specialist, you're gonna pay $50 instead of who knows what you're gonna get charged when you go to a specialist and you have a high deductible plan. There's no consistency there. You have no idea, right? So how do you plan for it? And then the mail order prescriptions, immediately you can get the $20, the $40, the $60, depending on whether they're
Within the network.
generic and preferred. And then IMS. Now we're back to not having a problem with that because there's no high deductible. You can go and get that service that you need for $5. I don't remember all the different amounts that we pay for different things, but like a surgery can be $50.
Right.
X-rays were
X-rays were $10.
Yeah, or $5 to
yes.
$10,
Right.
yes. So that benefit is truly a benefit if we go away from the high deductible. And then the Garner plan that we had put in place, that HRA reimbursement, it's immediate. So if you go and pay your $30 copay, you could potentially turn around and turn that in for reimbursement if you've seen a Garner doctor and get the $30 right back. And now you've not spent any money. Even though that $30 will count towards your deductible, you're going to get the $30 back from the HRA. So it's kind of a win-win, right? And then what would not change? We would still have our Blue Cross Blue Shield carriers, our medical carriers. We would still have Personify as our third-party administrator. The dental plan would have no change. The vision plan would have no change. Life would have no change. And what are the benefits? Lower out-of-pocket costs immediately. Immediate access to just paying a copay, so more people will go to the doctor. Your regular annual visit at the doctor, those are usually covered, that's preventative. But in some people's minds, they will think, nope, I have to meet that $2,000 deductible, I'm not going. So I think this will really help people get some preventative care and maybe care early rather than later. So what we're looking to do is redirect the HSA contribution from the slide a few before, the $1,200, redirect that to helping pay for the PPO plan for our staff. That would be the base free plan for the employee. And then it would also help pay for some of the compensation.
So we're currently spending $1.2 million on just the HSA contributions.
And that's conservative.
That's conservative,
Right?
right? Yes.
People come and go, and if we've already given them their money, it's theirs. Now we got to pay the next person that comes in.
So that's very conservative. But if we reallocate those funds, which is the proposal, we would use part of those funds to fund the compensation that we just went through with you. And the other part is to buy down the cost of adding dependents to your insurance plan. So right now in green, you can see what our current rates are per month. So if you're an employee only for the high deductible health plan, you're not paying anything. That's great for our employees, good for retention and for recruitment. If you add on a spouse or a child or the entire family, you can see how those rates increase. So our proposal is to take some of the funds that we have for the HSA contributions, reallocate them, and now you have a lower cost. You have a better plan, PPO 1000, and now you have a lower cost for added spouse, children, or the entire family by $300. So this was a big question for the compensation committee. It's a big decision to make, and they felt the pressure of that decision, and they didn't want to make the decision themselves.
No.
And so rightfully so, they said, we want to give the opportunity to all of our employees to give us their feedback on how do they feel about this change in base plan. So we did that. We sent a survey out to the entire district, and we want to show you the results of that survey. And it's probably better if you look at it from your slides.
So, what was the total that answered?
241 answered. Not
So-
everyone answered every question. though.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. This one has 231 responses, and that's just because every question wasn't required to be
Correct.
answered.
Yes.
So we already know this, the percentage of the people answering would be high for high deductible because that's what most of our people are enrolled in.
The second question was, how would you describe your typical healthcare usage? And you can see over 50% said regular visits, and then 28% said occasional. So those are the two largest areas that we saw for when it came to usage.
The next one is, which structure do you prefer when accessing medical care? 234 people responded, and if you total the blue and the orange together, that's 91% saying they would like to have a set copay. Really, if you add the orange.
If you look at the next question, and let us know if we're going too fast. This was a very informative question for us. We wanted to know, have you ever delayed your medical care because you have not met your deductible? And shockingly, you have almost 50% of those respondents say yes to that question. That was very insightful for the compensation committee. Very insightful too, because if you're not proactive in your health, then that leads to more serious situations that will cost our employee pool too. When you have serious claims that come in that disrupt the pool that we have, the health of our pool. So that was very concerning to us to see that there were close to 50%, at least of the respondents of the survey that had delayed services.
So the next question was, if a plan allowed you to direct copays without meeting a deductible first, how beneficial would that be to you? 229 people responded. Some very beneficial and moderately beneficial. If you add those, that's 86% that it's beneficial to them. Only 13 said not beneficial.
The next question is the main question we wanted to hear from. So how supportive would you be of transitioning our employee base plan from a high deductible to a PPO? And we wanted to emphasize that the base plan would still continue to be offered at no cost to the employee. And you can see over 50% support it, and we had 30% that said they were neutral either way. So of course, if you add those two up, that's 84% of the respondents that would support that. Okay.
The next one is the transition to a PPO 1000 base plan would also allow the district to reduce dependent premiums and support salary increases. Does that influence your position? 74% said yes.
Of course it would.
The other 26, oh, never mind.
Then we just wanted to know, the compensation committee wanted to know, okay, which of the following matters most to you when you come to your level of priority? No shock to anyone, salary increase was at the top of that list, and the top two, the second one was lower out-of-pocket cost at the time of the visit. So again, this was very convincing information for the compensation committee when they saw the results of the survey. And they did have quite a bit of conversation, and then they unanimously support the recommendation to the board to make our base plan switch from a high deductible to our PPO 1000 and reallocating those funds to help lower the dependent costs, but also to help fund this compensation plan that we went over with you as well. So that's a lot of information to go over in a short amount of time, but we wanted to share the survey results directly with you as well.
So did you eliminate the high,
Yes, the high
super
deductible,
low, whatever that was?
the high deductible health club.
No, the one on the other side of the
The
chart.
750.
The 16, yeah, the PPO
We just left that
750.
one.
Okay, so that one's
Yeah, that
remains
would just
the
stay the
same.
same.
Okay. I'm kind of saving people money here. It doesn't seem like you would think you'd have a higher percentage of people saying go. Because it looks like a great program. Now, how much of the health savings plan is being used to fund this? Is all of it? So no longer going to match?
So we have this slide here, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of
That's
myself.
good. That's good. That's a perfect segue. But any questions on the insurance change before we go into the funding aspect of it? Any thoughts, takeaways?
I just think we're in a position where the decisions that were made a few years ago with going to a self-funded model has put us into a situation where we can make some of these choices because I think the recommended increase was very minimal in
10%.
comparison to previous years of 15+%. And so the measures we put in and the features that we're using are helping keep costs down, because I think our total percentage right now is underutilized, under 100%, which is the first time it's been that way, I think, since I've been in the district.
Yes.
So the cost measures and the education that we're doing is making a difference, which has been a really cool thing to see. So if we can continue to find plans that drive costs down and get people the care they need, and they can go to Mexico and it's cheaper, I think all those we're going to continue to see an ability to enrich this program as we go forward.
Okay.
I don't even have a family, but I'm excited for the people that do.
Yes.
It's like the cost is going down
Right.
$300 a
Yeah.
month. That's significant for our
Plus a
large
raise.
employee groups.
And
that
a
are
raise,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like that, they're getting a raise, paying for their kids or their spouse to
And
be on
state
their
retirement
insurances.
contributions going down by 0.02%.
Yes, that too.
Go to the
Oh,
casino.
yeah, that's right.
0.02%. Hey, it's going down, it's not going
Yeah.
up, right? So that's going to see more
That's
money.
exciting.
All right.
Now, the employees that are going to Mexico, when they go into San Luis and Mexicali that has the hospitals and clinics,
They're going to
Across-
Algodones and San
And they're
Luis.
going to
And there's
Algodones
other
too.
clinics outside of those areas too, in
Okay.
Mexico as well. Yeah.
And they do have a clinic down in San Luis, Arizona too.
Yeah.
So you don't
Yeah.
have to go across the border for
Yes.
some of the
Yeah,
services. You can do it here.
Okay, yeah.
And
in
there's a
San Luis.
concierge, so they actually will pick you up at the border and drive you too.
Mhm.
And they have people that translate too, so.
like the program that OC Johnson has.
No,
No, that's different.
no, different. OC Johnson has regional health up
Regional
here,
health,
who
yeah.
comes to the school in a mobile clinic.
Okay.
Okay, so they provide services up here. Same thing at Gila Vista as well. And then, of course, we have the hospital at Roosevelt and Fourth Avenue, and they have their mobile clinic.
And those are
So
all for
IMS,
students.
explain a little bit better on IMS and what
Right,
it
so,
does. It's not connected to regional border.
no, not at all.
No, it's its own independent, it's a Mexican,
It's a network,
Mhm.
right? It's an
That's
insurance
based in
network,
Mexico.
yes. They have their own clinics, they have their own pharmacies,
Okay.
and they offer services at a much more reduced rate than you see in the US. And people that feel comfortable going there, and we actually have some employees that don't speak Spanish that have given us testimonials, like, I love it. I went in the concierge, they drove me over there, I felt comfortable. There were people that were translating for me, and they've switched their prescriptions to that until this little roadblock came up this year, right? But up until that point, we had a lot of positive testimonials.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, funding.
Okay, funding. So like we spoke about earlier, about the inflation adjustment. So this is a conservative inflation adjustment, not the 2%, lower than the 2%. Plus the insurance savings gives us a total funding of $2,056,000. The proposed investment, total recommended wage increase, that was that total of 2.8. But the M&O portion is only 2.002. And so if you look at the bottom there, we've got the two differences there, the funding available and the M&O wages that we would need. And again, that's got all those savings of positions not necessarily filled over the year, the 50 cents at January, but we counted it back to July.
So it's less than that. for
Is
sure.
the insurance savings the full insurance savings, or that's just the portion going towards the
That's
salary?
just a portion going
Yeah.
towards salary.
Then there's that other piece that's going towards the buy down of it.
Yes.
What
Yes,
was that
I'm sorry.
amount? What was the total amount for the insurance savings?
The HSA, that was the 1.2.
That was right.
Yeah, 1.2.
So about 700 is going towards the buy down.
Yep.
Any questions, thoughts?
Right, so the HSA is gone.
If approved by the board,
If
yes, for
this-
next
within
year,
this plan, it's gone in its entirety.
would be
You can only
reallocated.
have an HSA if you have a high deductible plan.
Oh, okay.
But no one loses their money from, that's already invested in the HSA.
Right.
Now that follows them.
FSA, totally different.
FSA, yes, that's still open to everybody. Yeah?
Yes.
All right, timeline and next steps. So we just wanted to cover what's been done. So we had our meeting in February with compensation committee, several meetings. And then we had our board study session today, and then the trust meeting, was that happened
Last week.
Last week already, right?
Yep.
And so then our plan is to bring this proposal to the governing board officially on March 10th. And that's imperative because we have teacher contracts that can go out as soon as March 15th. This year, March 15th lands on a Sunday. So I've got the HR team ready to press that button on the 16th, if approved by the board on the 10th. And that's just essential that if it is passed, that helps us when it comes to recruitment because we have a lot of new hires that are really recommended. We're waiting to have our new salary schedule for the upcoming school year and contract language approved. Those are things that we're looking forward to have that so we can move on with the rest of our recruitment. And then we'd have our teacher contracts issued, share information when it comes to insurance changes, especially when it comes to open enrollment coming up in April, and then issue our remaining contracts in April as well. So just kind of want to paint that picture of once the approval happens, if it happens by the governing board, all these other steps are planned to come into place after that.
There's also a large lift in payroll to get everything ready for that open enrollment, April 20th. So having everything ready.
Thus ends our presentation. Questions, comments, feedback?
I don't think I got most of mine answered along the way.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I think I'm good.
Appreciate your time. I know it was lengthy going through it, but we wanted to make sure we shared all the process that we've been through and the rationale as well.
Right. I think it would be valuable if, when Corey gets back, if you can set up time.
Yep.
Yes.
If you get together and kind of go over some of this stuff,
That's a good
just so
idea.
she goes into the board meeting.
Prepared.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Has
that would-
some sort of background of what just happened.
Right.
That'd be great. We'd love to do that.
We'll just send her a link to this video. Just kidding, I'm just kidding.
We'll meet with her in person.
Corey Lori, if you're listening, I'm just kidding. We'd be happy to sit down and go through it with you.
That's funny.
Everybody, nothing else from anybody?
I don't think so.
We do have a second item.
Yeah, there's one more.
It's only 3 slides.
Yeah.
The workers' comp.
Workman, okay, item 3, review and discuss on workman's compensation insurance for District 1.
All right. Start this back here.
Okay, so of course, we're always looking for possible ways to save money, right? I mean, that's what I'm always doing, possible ways to save the district money. So one way that we could save approximately $200,000 annually is just from switching from the Alliance to the Valley Schools Workers' Compensation Group. It's $200,000, that's not a lot compared to our budget, but it's still
It's
a
something.
lot,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So, as you can see, when we went through all these different reclassifications, some of them were less than 200,000, so, the move would just be, to save money. Also, it's a self-funded, Alliance is self-funded as well. There is, the cost savings of 200,000, potentially a little bit more than that. I was told that we're currently funding the plan at about 85%, and we're really only having about 25% of claims. So we're giving more than a lot more than what we're having claims for. So that will help us with savings. And then I just put some FAQs up here. Will the employees see any change? No. They'll continue to receive the prompt medical care and claim support. They do have, the change they will see is they do have a dedicated contact. So right now, if you call the Alliance, you've had,
Different claims adjusters.
you just get whoever answers the phone. So.
Does
we
it still
will
have like a triage nurse
Yes.
process in
Yes,
there?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
I think that's important. I like the
Yeah,
triage.
the
Yes.
process wouldn't change, they would just have a direct contact now.
Yes.
with
Okay.
someone.
Direct person, not just whoever answers. It is a nonprofit. It's member-driven pool by school districts. So some of that savings, like I said, comes from shared risk. And then they return the surplus funds back to the member districts, which is great. And then our other districts using this, yes, just as school districts. They've got about 30 years experience doing this. So that's what I wanted to bring to you, just to let you know that that's out there, and like I said, we're looking for ways to save money, so
This will be in the March
yes.
action items also.
It's part of the larger plan to shift as much as we can over to self-funded. So next would be property and liability. So once they build out their system to be able to handle property and liability for school districts, we would look at a shift on that as well, so that whatever's underutilized, we get to keep that money. And I would anticipate if we save 200 here, it might be 3 to 5x more that we would save by switching property and liability. So we could get that information from the trust right now, but then that brings up a lot of questions on why we want to switch service. So it's a better idea to wait until they're equipped to handle the change, and then we can really explore what that number is. The other aspect is they have an investment vehicle where that money that we put in and saves can generate additional revenue for the district as well, which obviously we're losing all of it now. So even just keeping the 200 is good, but then you would keep it plus have the benefit of some investment return on that money that sits there too.
Now, does this have caps that if we exceed, like I know healthcare had some, when we went self-funded,
They
there was a,
do have reinsurance.
okay,
Yep.
so that's all covered. We're not losing any coverage. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember the term.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope. I like hearing savings.
Yep.
Me too, yeah.
So that'll give us
No,
that
don't
$1
realize-
over Gadsden next year.
Yeah.
by financial status. This will tip us over.
Tip us over, right? All right. If that's everybody's comments on this, then we will adjourn this meeting.